Grace and peace, you guys. Welcome back to the Standard of Truth podcast, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. Today, we are going to dive into a particularly fiery news segment from Fox News featuring Chicago resident Danielle Carter Walters and New York City Mayor Eric Adams. You guys, let me tell you. This one's got everything. It's got crime, chaos, politics, and yes, the dreaded property tax discussion. Let's go ahead and break it down.
Those who are here committing crimes, robberies, shooting at police officers, raping innocent people, have been a harm to our country, well, cancel me, because I'm going to protect the people of this city.
Let's start with cutting off illegals, getting free everything. Free housing, free schooling, free food. The police detail you had, the 200 police detail you had, let's start with that. Because you Democrats, and you remember you told us to defund the police? Remember, you ran on that. Remember, y'all know for real.
First off, shout out to Danielle Carter Walters for speaking boldly about the state of things in Chicago. I am so glad to see a Black woman speak up and speak out about these things. And you guys, she did not mince words. And honestly, she hit on some of the major frustrations that have been felt by a lot of Americans. Now, I will say, I'm going to go ahead and let her finish, because she is going to say something that gave me such hope and made me realize that things are on a trajectory headed in the right direction. But let her finish.
And now, if you all vote on anything to raise all taxes or anything, because we already suffering homeowners, you all will not be in those seats.
Okay, first you heard from New York City Mayor Adams and a major shift. He says deport criminal illegal aliens now. And also that was Chicago resident Danielle Carter Walters describing how dangerous the situation is now in Chicago. Danielle joins us now. Danielle, we appreciate you so much for joining us on the show. Merry Christmas to you. I know it's so hard for you guys in Chicago. Can you please tell the viewer about what exactly is happening on the streets in Chicago now when it comes to illegal aliens?
Well, we have about 70,000 illegal aliens here in Chicago. They're just having entire restaurants all on the corner of residential areas. We having crime. We're having more shoplifting going on here. And we also having where the gangs are taking over. So it's really bad here in Chicago, especially when you dump 70,000 illegal aliens in our neighborhoods.
You know, Danielle, so on Monday, a mass shooting in Chicago, reportedly involving, migrants from Venezuela, 8 shot, 3 dead. And now,
yes.
Chicago, is this right that Chicago spent nearly $600 million in illegal aliens since 2022, but the Democrat mayor and the city council, they want to raise your property taxes to pay for it when you guys are getting nothing in return? We're showing the amount nationwide. It was $574 million, now we're hearing from Chicago, spent on this. Nationwide, $150 billion plus spent nationwide on illegal aliens. Is that is those the numbers you guys are hearing about too?
Yes, we are in a $1 billion deficit. We have spent, and I believe it's more, $600 million on illegals, funding them free housing, free medical, free schooling, free food, everything free, all while trying to tax the taxpayers. So we are in the $1 billion deficit. We want Brandon Johnson to allow Trump to come in and do his job. That's what we voted for, and that's what we want as American citizens and as Chicago citizens. I did not vote.
Now, I'm going to admit, when I hear someone say that they want Trump to come in and to do his job, I pause, and it gives me great joy because it helps you to realize that the Democrats who've been crying and whining about losing this election, where they have really not been paying attention to the fact that America overwhelmingly spoke up because they voted for the candidate that they know is going to do the job. And what job is that? That is the job of making sure that he sends these individuals who have entered into our nation illegally, he's going to send them back home. But here's what I want to do. Let's start with the obvious elephant in the room: the sheer absurdity of these sanctuary city policies. We have Chicago's got 70,000 illegal immigrants. And apparently enough restaurants and pop-ups on residential corners to rival a food truck festival. Except instead of gourmet tacos, you have gangs, shootings, billions, yes, billions of taxpayer dollars going up in smoke. Now let's be clear. Providing shelter for those in need, yes, that is a biblical principle. But there is a big difference between helping the stranger, as Danielle put it, and dumping 70,000 people into communities ill-equipped to handle them. That is something that we are not poised to do. Here's the kicker. $600 million spent on free housing, medical care, free, and schooling for illegal immigrants in Chicago alone. Meanwhile, actual Chicagoans, tax-paying citizens, are being asked to cough up even more money in property taxes. You guys, at what point does compassion stop being charity and start looking like theft? These people, the Chicago residents, unfortunately, sometimes you have to mess around and find out the hard way, meaning you need to go ahead and vote for your own demise. And when the person who told you what they were going to do actually follows through and keeps their word, and then you get to feel the repercussions and the consequences of your decision making, sometimes it's not until then that you actually wake up and realize that you done made a mistake and now it's time to course correct. Let me let her go ahead and continue.
With this mayor, or nor have I voted Democrat since 2016. But since this is what we have to deal with, he's a dictator. He refused to listen to the citizens, and we're telling him right now, if you do not listen to us and let Tom Homan come in and get these illegals out of our neighborhood, that it's going to be a problem.
You know, Danielle, we got news coming in. Mexico troops just seized a record amount of fentanyl, an historic amount that was heading toward the border. Let's take a listen to New York City Mayor Eric Adams on what the money that's going toward illegal aliens, what it's not being spent on for taxpayers. Danielle, let's get your reaction to this. Watch.
Okay.
The long-term impact of that $6.4 billion has not materialized yet. We could have spent $400 million on community schools to handle chronic absentees. We could have spent $600 million on 2,000 guidance counselors and social workers in schools, $39 million on summer rise and extended hours for 30,000 children, $22 million on Metro cars for 75,000 summer youth employment participants. $200 million could have gone to 1,000 more police officers. $84 million could have gone to 730 park staffs. The police budget is less than what we spent. The entire NYPD is only $6.2 billion. Fire department only $2.6 billion. They hurt the future of New York City.
Now listen, look, if Robin Hood took from the rich to give to the poor, modern politics is like Robin Hood's evil twin, taken from everyone and losing half of it in bureaucratic quicksand. I want to go ahead and transition and talk a little bit about Mayor Eric Adams here. Mayor Eric Adams, he is the New York City mayor. And I don't know if you caught this interview, but this man just rattled off a laundry list of things that $6.4 billion could have been spent on instead of illegal immigration. More police officers? Yes, sure. More guidance counselors for schools? Great idea. Metro cards for youth programs? Awesome. No complaints there. And yet, the money is gone. Just poof. And it makes you wonder if Mayor Adams, obviously, I don't know if he professes to be a Christian, but if he'd ever read Luke 14, verse 28, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. The text says, won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? Apparently, nobody in New York City Hall, obviously, because they're not believers, the wisdom of the scriptures here would have been so helpful for them. Granted, you ain't got to open up a Bible. Fine, but at least pick up a calculator and do some math. Here's the deal. New York City, the police department used to be one of the most premier police departments of this nation under Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Giuliani cleaned up the city, and his police force was that to be revered. 6.2 million is the entire budget of the police department. But with the influx of all of these illegal migrants, they said that they could have hired 1,000 more police officers instead of spending all that money to take care of the illegals. We're going to get to the fact that Mayor Eric Adams sounds now on the back end of this crisis to elicit some sort of common sense response. But the question is, where was that energy before? We're going to get to that. But I wanted to make a point about the shocking stat on this fentanyl seizures in Mexico. So while Chicago and New York, they are imploding under the weight of these policies, yet the cartels, they are making a killing, figuratively and literally. The drugs don't stop at the border, you guys. They flood into our neighborhoods, they devastate families, and they fuel the very violence that people like Danielle Carter are crying out against. Yet somehow, the solution that we're sold is that you need to pay more taxes, more services with less accountability. Brandon Johnson does not want to be held accountable. What he wants to do is he wants to take the taxpayer money from the Chicago residents and funnel that money toward all of his teacher homies, the ones that he promised all that money to. He is trying to raise the taxes to make up for the shortfall because he's made a promise to these teachers, but he's already spent the money on the migrants. If that's the playbook, I want to see who is coaching, because right now it feels like the team strategy is to fumble on every down and then hope that the fans don't notice. Let them continue.
Well, first, I think he's too late. He's definitely too late. He should have did this when it first happened, just like Brandon Johnson should have did this when it first happened. We fought him because we wanted to get put on the ballot so we can vote on if we wanted Chicago to stay a sanctuary city. Brandon Johnson blocked that. So these Democratic mayors, they want Eric Adams, but he should have did something 2 years ago when they started coming.
That's an important point.
So basically, I blame him for what's going on, just like we blame Jay Pritzker and we blame Brandon Johnson, because these Democratic mayors and governors allowed this. And they knew that we didn't have the funding to fund this, but they didn't care because they knew it was going to be on the taxpayer back. So now,
y'all, this is what Democrats do. And I'm so glad, like I said, to hear Danielle say, for one, I haven't voted for a Democrat since 2016, says to me that she's been paying attention and she could see the writing on the wall. Good for you, girl, Sister Danielle. But notice how she is calling out all of the Democrats, because this is a Democrat problem. She's calling out the governor. She's calling out the mayor. And she's basically saying, any sort of lamenting that any of y'all are doing now is too little too late. Why? Because these individuals ran on the concept of open borders. She is saying that we tried to get on the ballot to change our sanctuary city status so that when these migrants started coming across the border at the request of Kamala Harris, that Texas would have been like, all right, well, we can't send them to Chicago because they're no longer a sanctuary city. You know, their status has been changed. They probably would have went somewhere else. She is saying that it is too late, Mayor Adams. It is, well, we can't even say too late for Brandon Johnson because he won't even admit that this was a bad policy. But at the end of the day, Democrats do what they always do. They play in your face. They lie to you. They subjugate you. They want to spend up all your money with no accountability. And then it takes for something like this to happen before people realize that they are down bad and they should have made different choices. But here is the biblical worldview that I'd like to leave with my audience. Yes, we are called. We are absolutely called to love our neighbors. Yes, even the ones who don't speak our language or look like us. But law does not mean enabling lawlessness. Proverbs 29:2 is clear. It reminds us that when the righteous increase, the people rejoice. But when the wicked rule, the people groan. Well, judging by the groans coming out of Chicago and New York, I'd say it is time for some righteous leadership. What we are seeing is a tragic lack of stewardship over resources, a lack of stewardship over safety, and the communities that these leaders swore to protect, right? An abdication of their duty. Stewardship is not optional. It is a divine command, and ignoring it leads to exactly what we are seeing in Chicago and New York. You have chaos, you have crime, and utter collapse. So let me go ahead and end with this. There's a path forward, but it's not paved with empty rhetoric or more taxpayer dollars being thrown at the problem. Democrats, that's their only solution to everything. Let's just steal more money from you and throw money over here. No, it starts with acknowledging the sovereignty of God, the rule of law, and the dignity of every human being, citizen and immigrant alike, and shepherding those categories in the proper way by not neglecting to take care of your own people first, but stewarding and being a good steward over the resources that you've been given so that when your people are taken care of, you can then extend the olive branch to the stranger among you, but not crippling or enabling the stranger among you by giving them everything. The scriptures are clear. A man that don't work, he don't eat. Right? So you're not about to lay up and get free EBT cards and free this and free that so that you can live high off the hog at the expense of someone else. No, that is not how this works. These leaders, they need to just acknowledge that they screwed up and admit that they failed. And then they need to prioritize the well-being of their constituents, not their political agendas. And to be fair, I honestly believe that now Mayor Adams realizes that walking lockstep with his political party has ultimately led to the destruction of his city. And he is finally realizing that, listen, this was unsustainable. This was a bad idea. And now, in order to save this city, I have to speak up. And this will probably cost him politically. If New Yorkers were smart, they would try to probably extend a little grace to Eric Adams, because it takes a lot of bravery to go against the Democrat Party and to just employ some basic logic and reason. And I don't have to like his politics to admit that him desiring to work with ICE, desiring to work with Tom Homan to say, listen, please come get these people because this is destroying my city. I got to at least give him credit for that. But as for us, y'all, we've got work to do too. We have to pray for our cities. We have to pray for individuals like Danielle Carter who are out there raising their voices and bringing awareness to this issue. And maybe, just maybe it's time for some modern day Nehemiahs to start rebuilding these broken walls. In fact, tear them down and then rebuild them. But I want to know what you guys think. What are your thoughts in response to what Danielle has pointed out in this story? I want to know your thoughts down in the comments below. But thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in to the Standard of Truth podcast. And if you like what you heard today, or even if you didn't, go ahead and hit the like button, share this episode, and drop a comment below. And as always, remember, the truth isn't just something we talk about. It's someone that we follow. See you guys next time. Grace and peace.